Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Basic Geek Stuff, How to Paint a Sisters of Battle Palatine. My name's Dave and we're going to continue with this series. I hope you enjoyed parts 1 and 2 so far. In part 1 we went over how to prep the model and we separated it into separate subsections to paint. And episode 2 we painted the black, so here is the black. It's still looking really harsh in the lighting. I do have 3 white lights looking at the miniature whilst I'm recording this, so the highlights are basically showing off really brightly. I did apply a matte varnish, and since applying a matte varnish and showing that to my friends in real life, they've commented on how actually the model's highlights are a lot more subtle in real life. So I need to figure out a way of being able to show you guys that. Today's episode 3, we're going to go into painting the red robes. Now I want a really dark red on the inside and then I want a bright red on the outside, and I do want that bright red on the outside to eventually have some like weathering on it, just to kind of darken down some of the tips of it, add a bit more contrast. So the paints we're going to need for this are, let's just go through in any random order: Galvorback red, Screamer pink, Evil Sun scarlet, Corn red, Towlight ochre, Ushabti bone. So for the base coat, just before I start painting, I in my head my plan is Galvorback red. Right, so there's the first coat. While that's drying, I'm just going to go into the corn red and base coat that. So let's do some of this now. And as I said in the last episode, trust in the process. So I did say the black's going to look really it's going to look heavily highlighted and out of place, and that's mainly because there's no other colour on the model. So the only thing you've got it to compare it to is everything else is black. So obviously it's going to stand out a lot more. Oh, I've got to do the insides of the sleeves as well, actually, haven't I? Sorry about my shoddy camera work. I'm trying to, I'm learning as I go, so please just bear with me. And if anyone out there's got any tips on how to improve my camera work, I'm open to suggestions. Whatever it takes to make this the quality better. I am thinking though I may just need to invest in something better than this camera that I currently have. So that may be the case. Okay, so it looks as though the cloak actually rolls around, so this section here is going to have to be dark. Now the line here isn't very sharp that separates it, so just going to have to be careful there. And as you can see, this is going on patchy, but that's because it's watered down paint and it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is that it's smooth. Now yesterday, for example, I was painting the Lizardman pyramid, the Realm Shaper I think it's called. I had to do 4 base coats on that, but man, it's looking really smooth now, so it's honestly worth it to make sure all of your layers are super smooth, especially for big flat surfaces, because there's nowhere to hide your errors. At least if you're doing armor or maybe like plates of armor, it's obviously all intersectioned. You could even do battle damage and whatnot and cover up, but on a robe it's really difficult to cover anything up. So I'm being super neat near the black armor that I've already painted, but I'm not being as neat over these little purity seals, because I'll be painting over them anyway soon enough. Right, so we finished painting the base coat. You can see this was 3 coats, very smooth, very thinly applied, and it's left this really smooth finish. As you can see, the outside's the corn red, the inside is the Galvorback. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply a shade now, and to do the shade, we're going to use the base colour, so whether that was the inner cloak, which was Galvorback, or the outer cloak, which was the corn, and then we're going to add a bit of black, and then we will water that down and add it to the inner and outer cloak to apply its relative shade. So that's 5 parts water, 2 parts Galvor back, and 1 part black. I'd rather it went on thin and we can adjust and add more. So let's put it up in the top here and have a look, see how that's sitting. Dragging that into the recesses. The good thing is we can have a play on the inside of this cloak because you're not going to see much of it, so we can really test it out and see how it's sitting in the shadows. So for me, I'm going to wait and see how it dries, but it doesn't even look thick enough, so, dark enough, sorry. So we'll see when it dries though. So I'm just pulling it through those finer edges for now, so those deeper edges. And then we can feather it out of here. So yeah, I think we're going to have to wait and see how it actually looks when it's dried before we make our mind up. We may need to do either a couple coats of this or just go a bit darker. We will see. So I'm brushing away from the higher areas, so that's pushing the pigment more into the shadows, is the goal there. See, it doesn't look too dark, not for my liking. We will see when it dries though, who knows, we may be pleasantly surprised. I'm just going to keep working it, because I don't want it to pool or do any kind of tide marks on it. Just keep working it. Let's try the outside. So corn red, let's go 2 parts corn red. Let's do 1 part black. Let's just see what that looks like mixed on the palette. Maybe enough. This one we really have to get right because it's obviously on the outside you're going to see a lot more of it. I think this will be dark enough. So again, it's like 5 parts water. I want it really watery. That's not watery enough. See that? Let's try this. Right. Check on the nail. I'm going to add 1 more part water just to be sure. And if it is too watery or it's not right, at least we went thinner so it's easier to manage and cover up and whatnot. So let's start by applying it in this recess here. Why am I going quieter as I do meter work? That's so weird. All of this area is going to be in shadow around the edge. So it looks like I'm painting here, but this is just water, just me pushing the pigment to the recesses. So it's going to look wet, but that's not the pigment. And there is a line here. So I could draw like that, and then you can work with it. Let's push pigment in. line down here if we can help it. Now what we will be doing is going over with the corn red after to touch up, if you want to call it, any areas where the shade is a little bit thicker than we want. So on here, on the back of the cloak, I think what we'll do is we'll have a nice sharp edge. So I want the tip here to have the red on it, but then I want the rest to fade in. So let's just slowly fade that in, gently, not slowly, but we do need to pull the pigments back towards the edge. Like that. This line here I want to, oh sorry, let me bring it a bit closer. So this line here I do want it red, so I can paint it on. So applying the pigment to that area. But then we need to smooth it out on the edges. Building up this way, so let's have a look here. I'm just trying to figure this out. I need to kind of really nail this line first, this one here, and then I'll start working in this area, because I think this line will affect how I make the other areas look. So let's just try and get this line put in nice and smoothly. You can see it's coming along nicely. Remember, this is thin paints, that's the secret, thin paints. Now I want to leave a nice dark line there. Let's just apply a little bit in here. So I'm not going to the very edges because I want to smooth it out to the edges. So now I can really just soften that up myself. If I go too close to the edges with the paint, initially when I put the paint down, then I'll be too close to the line when trying to soften it out. Right, need a bit more medium in there. So let's apply a bit more. Oh, there's quite a bit of paint there. So wash my brush off and I'm just going to work this out. So I want this end here to be nice and bright, but I do want to spread the paint up throughout, and then this edge needs to be feathered out nicely. And it's just all about building it up layer by layer. So let's keep building this up. A bit more paint, smooth it out. You can see already the difference. Still getting those recesses, but it's coming out really nice. So let's paint up here. So I want this red to be really nice and bright, bring back its vibrancy that it had before whilst keeping those recesses. So we'll just keep working on this now. Okay, so I've just finished the corn red going over it. You can see now it's a lot more neater. There's Some of the darker areas are darker than others. So here, that's a super deep recess, so that's really dark. I wanted this to be a really clear line here, so you can see this is where the edge of the robe is, where it buttons up. This line in the middle isn't very deep at all, so that's not as dark as this one or this one. If we come around here, there's a deep recess here. There's another deep recess there. Both of those are shaded accordingly by being a deeper shade. Okay? So, on to the front now. So back to the Galvor back red. Let me just adjust the lighting here. So Galvor back red mixed with a little bit of medium. And this is really easy stuff to be doing at home, guys. You can all do this. I'm not like showing you some sort of mega secret Shaolin technique. All I've been doing is applying the paint thinly, pushing it into the areas where I want the paint to be strongest pigment wise, and fading out those washes, just building up layer after layer so that it goes on smooth, as you can see. So we've got the Galvor back red here now. So let's have a look here. This area here is going to be the Galvor back red. Nice big bright area. This side should be really easy, to be honest, because of the fact that most of it's going to be covered up. So it's just, this is really, there's not going to be any skill involved with this really. It's just a case of painting over again. I will leave out some areas. So for instance, this big shadow here, I will leave this out. I'm not going to paint it. When it comes to this area here, I'll just brush up through there, up through there. And that's pretty much it. How easy was that? It wasn't even hard. Okay. So there you go. Nice and simple. I don't have to even really blend on this. There's going to be legs in the way. You're going to get the effect of deeper shadows to not. The legs will be there anyway. Let's move on to now highlighting some of the red. Okay, so I've mixed up in my palette now 50-50 Corn Red and the Evil Sun Scarlet. We'll be moving on to just pure Evil Sun Scarlet after, and we have added some medium into this. So now all I'm going to do is start painting on even higher areas. Now this paint is super thin as well. It's really important to make sure that we're only applying thin paints here. So let's just work on these higher areas. And if we need to push them out, we will. Now I want this cloak to be quite red on the front, so I'm not afraid to put a bit of paint on the model at this point. So there could be a risk here where what I do is I just stay super conservative and thin, but then the miniature ends up quite dark. But I don't want that. I actually want quite a bright red robe on the front, because I want to put some weathering on it later down the line anyway to bring it back a bit. So here you go, I've just put a line there. I'm not just going to leave that line, I will then just try and smooth that line out. But I'm not afraid to get some paint on this mini. As I say, I want to get it quite vibrant red. This is difficult to brush up, but I want to try and get some of the pigment up there. Just spreading that out. And then pulling down to the strongest areas. So that's nice. Line down the middle then. sure always that these paints are smooth. They're watered down so that we have a smooth finish, I should say. So I really want to get the red in the middle here and then push out. Try and feather it out a little bit. Oh, I don't need the mini moving right now. I have to glue it down again. Looks like it's popped off. I only just tacked it down with a bit of super glue. Right, it's looking nice and bright. Looks a bit bulbous in the middle. This line here is a bit fatter than it is down here, so let's try and remedy that. Try and smooth it all out. Don't mind it being a little darker under here. There's going to be a sword across here. There you go, nice and smooth. Let's keep going. So I think I'll start on this piece here. This is going to be super bright here. Feather that out into the shade. Let's see if I can get in here and paint that a little bit inside. First challenge. I messed up a bit. Easily remedied with thinned paints. There you go. That'd be the darkest. That'd be the brightest. I take that bit now though, so it won't get brighter than that. See what we can do over here. So I don't want to really hit the buttons because I want the little shade around the buttons still, so I have to be careful there, because that shading for the buttons is going to help when I start applying the metal. Okay, so we've got our Evil Sun's Scarlet on the palette. We've added a bit of water, even though we didn't need to because we used some medium. So now we're really concentrating on high edges this time, instead of trying to get so much coverage with the previous red. The previous red was really just to kind of give the impression that I want the red to be quite bright. This now is like an actual proper highlight. Helps if the water is, if your paint is a lot thinner as well, because it will flow better off the brush as you do these strokes. lines on this side here, but I'm going to tame this right back in. I'm really liking this particular line down here. That's showing up really nicely. I want to work on that a bit more because it's looking like it's a good line. And the same down here. This one needs a bit more punch. Is looking nice. That's cool. So there's the age-old argument of, do we do a highlight all around the edge, the bottom edge? And I don't want to do that. I don't think that's going to make the model look better, for example. I'm happy the way it is currently. I kind of just want to stick with this style instead. So the reason I'm applying it to this edge is because of the great contrast between this and the dark red to the left of it. So you can see, yeah, really popping. Oh, too much paint on the brush there for the area that I'm trying to paint, so I had to adjust there on the fly. There you go, you can see that now. Good so far. Needs another line, but I want to move over to here. So because this doesn't have a high sharp peak, it's more of a wide peak, it's really difficult to decide how to do this. We could just do a thin line in the middle, but the thin line doesn't represent the area as well, so I think I'm better off just doing more of a wide spread out highlight here, just because the curve is a long rolling curve rather than a sharp high curve. So we can't just do the same for every single one. It just doesn't make sense. So do this edge here. This one out a little bit and up, pull it back. Okay, so we'll move on to the next highlight stage. So this is 50-50 Tau Light Ochre mixed with the Evil Sun Scarlet. The reason I did that is because I don't have a particular orange to hand that I want to use, so I've made my own recipe. But I mean, if you can find an appropriate red orange, then go for it. So we've watered this down, we are good to go. So now, just need to clean the brush off. We're going for applying less paint to the mini now, and going for the super high areas, and really thin lines is what we need. As I said, what you can do, if you feel like you've gone overboard with the highlighting at any point, is you can tone it all back down with a wash. So for instance, if I went overboard with a highlighting, I can just do a red wash over the whole thing, or a glaze, and just get the whole thing like back in check as such. So just to put a filter over it, you know, just like when you're taking a selfie, and just give everything the same kind of hue. So that is an option if you feel like you ever go overboard with the highlighting. You can tone it back. We're not there yet, but who knows? So I didn't want to necessarily have the line go there. I wanted it to come down here. What I'm going to do is just tiny little dots just on the corner here. Trying to think what I could do here. There's not really anything I can do here over on this side because it's flat. There's just nothing to it, so I can't really put anything there in terms of highlights. There will be a sword going through there anyway, I guess, which is my get out of jail free card for leaving it slightly blank. Let's do here. I may need to. This is going to be difficult with the. Highest point. I'll do a couple little lines there. Right, on this one, we will be doing just a line down. A few of those little dots at the bottom. Where I'll do a proper bottom line corner. Here at the top as well, just a tiny little dap. Even though this bit won't get much because of the backpack, you won't get much optics on it. It's just nice to put it on, and even though it's not really a highlight, just a tiny little bit here, just to recognise that area on the mini. Right, one final highlight. Might as well do that now. Add a little bit more tau ochre, and then we are done. So let's get that mixed in. This has to be used like super sparingly. So right, let's figure this out then. So tiniest little dots there. We'll just use it at the base here. Done. Okay, so we're moving on now to Screamer Pink Watered Down. This is going to go on the inside of the cloak. So let's get applying this now. So this will be a bit of a difficult area to do because it's very flat. And I don't really want it to just be a big block of bright colour because it's flat. So we need to be conscious about how we tackle this area. So that's probably as far as I'll go there, and then I'll highlight around the edges a little bit, but that's as far as I can really go with it. So let's see what happens here. Right. Let's blend that in. Now luckily we don't have to be as cautious here because obviously it's the inside of the cloak, so not much of this is going to get noticed, but it's nice to do a good job on the areas that will, like this outside bit of the cloak here, so we will do our best. We definitely don't have to blend on the inside as much, so as I come around here it really doesn't matter so much on this smoothing out. That's that stage. Let's move on to the next stage once this dries. So the next layer I've added into the Screamer Pink some Ushabti bone. So let's just move on to that now. Now we've got a really difficult process here. Do we just do this a big coloured piece because it's sticking out? I don't think we should. I think this should remain quite dark and we should just probably highlight around the edges. I don't want to do a big circle of colour here necessarily. It might be worth doing a few glazes there and just bringing it up slightly in the middle, but this line here is the line that I want to concentrate on, this one here. That's going to be the big fold as such. So let's come around this side. So what I will do with the inner cloak is I will be putting some sort of black glaze over it. Yeah, over the whole thing. I just want it to have a really good contrast on the inside, be really nice and deep and dark. So need that glaze the other side as well. I think we need to mix some more colour up though, so let's do that quickly. So I've mixed up some more paint. I want to get a nice sharp edge along here. It's going to be very difficult because we actually run out up here. I'm hoping the sword that sits on the hip covers this up. So let's go as much as we can, like say to there. I hope the sword does the rest. If not, we'll have to adjust on the fly. I think I will do a line across here. That's because this colour is going to need as much help as possible to stand out. Thank you for the black wash I'm going to do later. That's why it's so important to keep everything wet. So it looks like just a big blob in there, but it's not. It's the light just washing it out. I guess for here, not that this matters. Do a line. Okay, black wash time. So a little bit of black, loads of water, and then apply it to the miniature. Doing just light glazes and just trying to blend in some of the shadows. So here, applying it, taking some of the paint off the brush, and then just blending it in, so you get a smoother finish. This line in here, I haven't even started yet, so don't worry about that, but it really doesn't matter. This is where the leg's going to be anyway, so I can go over it and then brush it out. A little bit more paint and water. Before we come over to here, do a black line in there, a little bit more. Start feathering that out into the highlighted area, and then I'll do it actually for down here. So this bit, I want this section here to be quite dark, but I don't necessarily need the rest of it to be quite dark, so I can apply it, and then what I'll do is I'll feather it out. Well, technically I'm kind of feathering in because I want the pigment to sit down there, but you get my gist. Looking great here. This is this is blended really nicely over here now. I think the photographs are going to do it more justice when I take some pictures. But yeah, if anyone's got any recommendations for good cameras to use for this, let me know. I'm well up to suggestions. Currently, I'm just using a Razer webcam, but I'm open to using some better tech to deliver better videos. So you can see it's building up darker down there now. So look at the difference it makes with the black wash. Over here, I think, and in here, let's pull down. Big line at the back is going to need to be filled with black. I think that looks great. That's come out really nicely. And we can just keep pushing this contrast as much as we want. Like, I'm really happy with this. So then we can do another line there, and then just try and blend it in a little bit more. But it really doesn't need it. It's come out great. The black wash saved us, guys. The black wash saved us. So that side's looking fine. It's blended in nicely. Inside is smooth. This side's looking good. Just trying to see where I can just push the darkness. Now this area is really going to be seen, so that doesn't matter. I've got the highlights down. Most I could do is add a bit more here, but it doesn't even really need it. So let's there you go, look at that. So maybe, so if the model's that way, let's try applying a bit more down here. Here is the finished piece now. As you can see, I've painted the arms in now. If I could go back and change anything, I'd probably do slightly not as dark recesses on the arms, because those recesses aren't as deep as that dark colour warrants. Maybe I would work on the blending a little bit more, but overall I'm happy with this piece. It's going to be great once the whole model's done, I can just tell. The inner robes don't matter because the legs are going to be there, but just as a piece on the board it's going to look amazing. So it's good enough to sit in the cabinet, and yeah, really impressed with it. Thank you very much for sticking out for the entire video. I'm still open to any suggestions to help me improve the quality of the audio, the video, the lighting. Anything you can suggest, please leave in the comments below. If you like what you saw, please consider giving me a follow or a subscribe so that you get notified of the next part that will be coming out, which will probably be the face. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you very much.